I'm done now. So, Dad, you can, if it's you, you can get started, and then I'm going to ask Nande to lead us through the rest of the members. Yes.
As with a lot of your teachings, I press a reset, wipe the hard drive clean, and start afresh. And as I said before, without being disrespectful, blasphemous, but it's just trying to figure it all out in my own mind. The whole concept of sonship of God brings me back to the inevitable. The sons of God, just correct me if I'm wrong, were created as spiritual beings, obviously by the Most High.
Right.
Okay. Then this doctrine of the Trinity creeps in, and all the undoing all the teaching of all the years. Now, in essence, I know the candle analogy, the ice, fire, water, and ice and steam, and putting all that out of my mind, I see the sonship of God is a title. I see the sons of God were not authorized to receive worship. Am I saying that correctly? While they were watchers. Then we have, in the beginning was God, God was with, and God, and the Jehovah's Witnesses would say a God. So are we to believe that Jesus was and is basically God, the Most High, but then God supernaturally sends his son to become that messenger to rectify all the wrongs that the other sons of God have done? But it doesn't diminish that Jesus and the Father are one, are the same essence, the same being. Am I right?
Yeah, look, again, it's difficult for human beings to conceptualize something like that because they'll end up pushing the father-son analogy too far. So Jesus takes on the
sonship
apparition.
role.
It's not the right word. Apparition isn't the best word I could be using. He steps into a pre-existing model which has been tainted, right? So he steps into it, but it doesn't imply that before he stepped into it, he was a son, or that he was a god, or that he was anything. In that previous, before he steps into it, he is in a mystical reality. He is the memra. He is the logos. He is the word. So the gospel writers can comfortably suggest that the words God spoke to make creation is Jesus. Jesus is those words personified. So that's the kind of picture they are painting of who he is. So they're not suggesting he was sitting up as a son all that time, just waiting around. When they say that
but
he
in
was
essence,
there, he is, you've got those options. I said, the Ancient of Days, he is the angel of the Lord, but none of those characters are physically Jesus. It wasn't like that's Jesus and then, hey, I'll be back again soon. That kind of situation. That emanation from God, done by God deliberately, then becomes born as a baby, which is a very unique thing that obviously none of the other sons of God did. They had different ways of screwing that process up. But God allows of himself without diminishing himself, because that's the point. He isn't diminished by Jesus being born. If Jesus died and never rose again, God would not be any less God, if that makes sense. So this isn't a quantitative thing, it's a qualitative issue, and it is complicated to define. You are in mysticism, there's no way around it. So it's not a simple
I dare
concept
say
to perfectly explain.
what I'm trying to say, the prior to the incarnation, as the Catholics would call it, before Mary, becoming pregnant with Jesus, the Christ child, before that, in essence, really, there is the Most High,
Right.
who a part of him is the word, the Ancient of Days, but because he is the Most High, he can almost, with respect, subdivide himself and gives Jesus, well, not Jesus, but the Ancient of Days, the Son of David, all those titles. And then he shows up all the rebellious sons of God by being the supreme servant. Is that what you're saying? So Jesus was never a created being like the Watchers, is what I'm trying to say. Get in my own mind.
No, he's not. He wasn't handpicked out of what was left up in, in the throne room. Like, okay, you go down. Not that. No, but he's
clearly, no, but he was never created. All things are not created equal, and they were created, but he was pre-existent.
He wasn't created, not like they were. No, but yet he still, by God's design, gets given that. He gets framed in that class because his work is to undo what they did.
And then in God honoring him as he being the perfect son, and the realization of true servanthood and sonship, God says, I will give you the name above all names. And God's recognizing his servanthood, his absolute dedication to the cause, if I could put it that way. And so God honors him and authorizes full worship.
Because again, and God can do that without again diminishing himself. He's not diminished by that. Hashem is not diminished by that.
But the Most High is never unseated in a coup d'etat by the usurper Jesus. I'm now getting it totally. I might be burnt at the stake by some quarters, but what I'm trying to get is
and in fact,
and the Most High is always the Most High.
That's it. And in fact, ultimately, Jesus, when everything is said and done, is receiving all the kingdom and everything. Guess what he ends up doing?
Hands it back.
Gives it back to his Father. And again, in this case, the Father-Son analogy is very functional, but not completely literal either. And that's why I say you can push the analogy too far. That's what I'm saying.
And in using the Trinity, you almost diminish the Most High and take away some of that.
No, you are definitely taking away a lot. As functional as it seems to be, and I don't blame other Jews for rejecting Jesus on the basis of Trinity. As much as it tries to get it right, it's screwing up too much in the process.
Yeah, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm just trying to say, because ultimately the Father, even Jesus, never takes anything away from the Father.
Right. So he keeps himself securely within that framework in the gospel. So you see it.
Is the simplest form of the Trinity almost divides it in three parts, which is not the theological intention, if you put it that way.
Look, there's one declaration Jesus makes in his prayer when he prays to God. He says, let them be one, even as we were from the beginning. I mean, okay, what now? Like, he's just crossed that line in a way. So the point is, there's a very fluid nature, and it's a very complex theology, not impossible to understand. Again, the problem will be, it will be harder for Christians to understand than Jews, although a lot of Jews are hung up on that idea because they've been indoctrinated by rabbis to hate Jesus. So, and not to let him be Jewish. So the Jewish problem is easier to solve than the Christian one. I believe it's easier for a Jew to fully grasp Jesus than it is a Christian who's hung up on Trinity and other concepts. Again, not saying they're doing it on purpose. It's just a theological minefield, I guess, that gets caused.
I suppose it's a human attempt by human with limited, as we are, limited understanding, to understand impossible to understand God. No, okay, that's all. I want to just thanks, Darren. It's just something I wanted to clear up in my own mind. Yeah.
No, it's perfect. Okay, Nande, do you want to lead us through whatever else we've still got on?
Sure. Next is Janet.
It's so kind of you because, of course, you realize that it's getting on as far as the night is concerned, eh? Whereas it's early morning for the New Zealanders.
Okay.
Darren, you know, I've just realized that I have missed out on so much. And I'm trying desperately to catch up on the recordings,
Yes.
which I am going through. I can remember a lot of this, you have been done this very much earlier on. This is going to be my third or fourth year, I think,
Yeah.
with Rabbi Bible School. But just to go with what your father said or was discussing, this has always been a bit of a problem. And certainly, as you say, in the more Christian aspect and the Trinity, I've somehow or another um, edged away from the actual Trinity as the
Sure.
Christians see it. And I don't know why, but just in my sick little stupid mind that I have, I see Jesus as the sort of arm of God.
Sure. Right.
And then looking towards the end, we know that when we get to the Millennium Kingdom, it is Jesus and Jesus only that rules. He sits in the seat of David and he
Right.
rules with an iron rod. And then, as you say, and as your dad was saying, and then when we get into the eternal kingdom after the millennium, he hands it all back to God.
Right.
And so I don't quite know, but I mean, for me, it's just that he's a part of God, but he's definitely not God, and he's God's right hand, and they're
Right.
inseparable.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know how to actually explain it, but thank you. It was wonderful. Of course, you know me and all the Star Wars and the movies and the things. The only thing, as I say, that I can relate to is watching the Big Bang Theory and listening to Sheldon and the fact that they are all his heroes.
Yes.
I've never seen any of the movies or anything, so I'm not au fait with that. But yes, I mean, as I said, it's all about war. And when it
Yes.
comes to Hollywood, I think that they do know. They
Oh,
know
yeah.
as well as we do exactly what the end story is.
Right.
And they're spinning it their way. That's all there is to it. And
Right.
making an awful lot of money.
Sure.
But yeah,
Indeed.
thanks so much, Darren. I hope that I can participate again, but I will
Wonderful.
explain how difficult it sometimes is here.
Okay. No problem. Great.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Nice to hear from you, Janet. Kathy.
Yes, thank you. What is amazing, I love the backstory that you always give us. It's not just um, words on a page. You make all your teaching is you make the teaching. It becomes three-dimensional actually.
Okay.
Um, yeah, because it becomes so real, and there's always more to it than just words on the page. I love all the research, all the context, which is another word that you love as well. And the teaching is just amazing. It's always more than if we just read a verse. Then
Yes.
you give us the backstory to that and how it came to be that, and even how many more times it's reinforced elsewhere throughout the whole of Scripture. And it's just so important for us all to have this teaching. And you definitely have an awesome, well, more than one awesome gift. I appreciate that you are willing to share all that you learn and research. And it's such a benefit to us, well, to me for sure. And I just so appreciate all that you do. Um, it and oh, and another fabulous gift you've got is all the graphics. They're just amazing. I'm sure it's you that does them. Is it?
Yes. Well, look,
Yeah.
some of the pictures obviously are pictures I take and manipulate and change and whatever. So, but yeah, the idea is to put
Yeah.
it together. I do have fun with that.
You're so very, very gifted in many ways. And I call those lesser than the main one, which is, of course, the knowledge and understanding that you bring to all of Scripture for us.
Right.
And what
That
a
is the
privilege
main
it
thing.
is to learn from you. It is amazing. And I just love it. And it's very important. Highlight of the week. Oh, good. It's Friday night, tomorrow morning,
That's
early.
our
Get
thing.
up. Yeah. So yeah, so thank you so much. I just love all the teaching and I have a feeling of being able to rely on you, but I do appreciate when you say challenge when you need to.
Yes,
And
right.
it's,
You must.
it's really good. I mean, often the challenge just becomes, can you just reiterate, or what did you mean by this and that?
Sure.
But yeah, so great teaching. I loved it. I've got copious notes, and thank you for all that you do. It's to our benefit for sure, and it's so valuable that it's a privilege to be a part of it. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, all right, dear. It's just me. I have two specific questions. So um, let me just get them here. Where is it now? Oh yeah, you already kind of answered it with the Mark one, because when I heard that demon say that, which we know it's a Nephilim, or a disembodied Nephilim, technically speaking, uh, when it addresses Jesus as Most High, I was first thought I put out was like, this 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 thing is realizing Jesus's classhood. I want to put it
Yes.
like that,
Yes.
classification, and that would actually be putting him not on equal, but I guess on equal in terms of power and authority and responsibility as that Nephilim's father was at that
Right.
point, or that
Yes,
demon's
it is
father.
making that, yeah.
So he's like realizing, crap, this is my dad's
Right.
class. This isn't our kind of thing. So that was pretty cool. And then um, the angel of death that comes during Egypt, during Passover, or what would be seen as the first Passover. Do you think that would be one of another typography of sorts that is the pre-incarnated Jesus? Or because it
Yeah,
seems to.
I think a safer way to answer that would be to say that angel of death, the angel that passes over, is the same kind of, what's the word to use? Outflow from God Most High. It's the same
Mhm.
kind of expression of himself to do a job of some kind that any
Mm.
of the same expressions of God in Tanakh could be of Jesus when he becomes incarnate. You see how safely I'm trying to answer that?
I asked that, Dee, because it almost seems intentional then that angel of death would then centuries later would have to become kind of killed on its the day it killed all those other firstborns.
That could
Or
be a very
its
poetic picture, yes.
reincarnation. Its reincarnation. Again, I'm also trying to be safe because then you start going to a bit more like, wait, are you saying, there's different kinds of Jesus and stuff
Yeah,
like
then
that?
that could be dangerous, yeah.
But I'm listening to your father's discussion and I'm listening, and would you then say, this is what I'm kind of like, when I was looking now, when I press this part, there's a participation thing here where I can see everyone who's on and then I can say who's next and everything. And it has you as host and me as co-host. And I'm just thinking to myself, like I'm guessing, would you say another analogy, and again it would be an analogy, is you got, it seems like the sun or the sun metaphor or type or the Son of God element was made out of whatever was before. They were created as an image bearer themselves to
Right.
image this.
Yeah.
I don't want to use, because when you say first son, it's almost like, okay, he was the first created son, but he almost is in the same class with them. But they always know that he's not in. Just like me and you, I'm co-host and you're host. But anyone who's listening or knows us will know those aren't the same capabilities of people.
Right.
These aren't the same age. But right now, we are in the same class as being. I have the same abilities and responsibilities. I record. I can
Right.
accept people onto Zoom, but you are different of nature, if I can put it like that, completely. And it almost seems that's what Jesus is with his quote unquote brothers. Um,
Right.
they know he's not, he's part of their class, the sons of God class, but he's not them, and they know that themselves. Um, and I wouldn't even say it's controversial, because when you read what Paul says, we get to call these brothers later on as co-heirs
Right.
with him.
Exactly. You know
You
what,
know,
man?
Christians,
You,
yeah,
you know what the bottom line is? It's a class distinction which has limited functionality depending on who it is that's being addressed, if that makes sense. So this is why I say, remember I've said this before when I've taught on Midrash and that in the past, where I said metaphor, if you make it matter more, it will matter no more. In other words, if you push it beyond its actual boundaries, you destroy it. And that's the same thing.
yeah,
We don't literally mean that Jesus had brothers, celestial brothers, like, and now you're going to think like normal earthly brothers. See, because then you've destroyed it. It doesn't have that range. And that's the challenge here, is how far do those metaphors or those analogies, how far can they be taken? Well, one simple way to define the boundaries is let the gospel writers and Paul and Jude and Peter and John define it. Then you're kind of safe. And if
mm,
you scratch through them, you're going to already be surprised at just how much they actually hinting at already. And that might even be difficult to process. So that's what I would say is the boundary.
yeah.
We are saying in a very loose term that Jesus is like in the class, brotherly class of the other celestial beings, but that's not to be pushed to the furthest extent, like we would literally have brothers on earth. And you get what I'm saying? So that is a very complicated, well, it is complicated. It's not impossible to do, right? But you can twist your own brain unnecessarily, imagining Jesus as a sibling to them, because that's not what it means. They weren't all sitting around as babies together. That's where the analogies get carried away and destroyed effectively.
I think we can gather it though, because even in the body or the church, or what we call each other, me and you always call each other brothers, yet we understand we aren't of the same biological
There we
makeup,
go. Yeah. So
or
yeah,
even people in guilds or stuff that call each other brothers because of the association and rank
exactly.
that they hold, but
Yes,
they don't. So I think within even human as metaphors and livelihood, the teaching, the metaphors are there for us to understand. Even someone who founds like the founder of a whole organization will be the first president, but he is of an upper, because he's the founder. No one else can be a founder, but he will
exactly.
be the
Yes.
one of
Yeah.
many presidents. You know what I mean?
Right. That's
So
that's a
yeah, that was
perfect
awesome.
way. Yeah.
That was so that's an awesome, just that kind of getting, we're kind of giving more information, the simplistic nature the Trinity and Christianity kind of gives to Jesus. And I understand, because it's scary. You don't want to misunderstand and de devalue who Jesus is and his nature.
Yes.
But I think that fear, it's the same fear they have with Revelations. Like, okay, this is too much and I don't want to misunderstand it. But you've already misunderstood it by not even trying to approach Revelations
Right.
already.
You're destroying it. Yeah.